More than 2 millennia ago, in the land of Israel, around the time of the ancient sect known as the Essenes, a group of renegade seers and visionaries composed reams of material, expanding on the antediluvian, pre-flood narrative of the biblical book of Genesis. The oldest fragments of these writings have been found among the Dead Sea Scrolls, proving not only their antiquity, but that in the days of the Second Jewish Temple, they were considered on a par with divinely inspired scripture. Truth is, good scholarship is detective work, and textual sleuths are agreed that there wasn't a single Judaism in those days, but multiple Judaisms. Moreover, these writings, revolving around the ancient patriarch Enoch, are part of what we can call Enochic Judaism. Many of them fall under the rubric of ancient Hebrew apocalyptic, characterized by dream visions about the end of days. There are heavenly ascents, angelic revelations of secret wisdom, a restored messianic monarchy, the final judgment, an earthly or heavenly paradise, and the afterlife. There's material about the origin of demons. As far as the visionary authors were concerned, otherworldly experience, the kind brought on by a trance-like meditative state, must be interpreted in terms of the God of Israel coming down to Mount Sinai, where the law was first given to Moses, to pass judgment upon all humanity at the end of days.
And the eternal God will tread upon the earth, even on Mount Sinai, and appear from his camp, and appear in the strength of his might from the heaven of heavens.
The account in the book of Enoch goes on to introduce a most mysterious group of non-terrestrial entities known as the Watchers.
And all shall be smitten with fear, and the watchers shall quake, and great fear and trembling shall seize them unto the ends of the earth.
Who are these Watchers? One may scour the Hebrew Bible from one end to the other without finding any reference to such entities, save the book of Daniel, where Babylon's king Nebuchadnezzar is said to witness a watcher, or holy one, coming down from heaven. But somewhere along the line, the concept of a war in heaven crept into popular religious imagination. It was a war involving open rebellion among the angels, many of whom decided that it is better to rule in hell than serve in heaven. It was a war that inspired, among other works, Milton's Paradise Lost.
Then storming fury and clamor rose in heaven, till now was never. And now all heaven had gone to wrack. In this perfidious fraud, contagion spread, this disobedience now an iron to bruise or alienate from God, by spirit accursed. All rebels obeyed the superior voice of the great potentate Satan. A third part of heaven drew after him.
That's Milton, but we also find reference to this heavenly war in the New Testament book of Revelation.
And war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought. But they did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. So the great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old, called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was cast to the earth, and his angels were cast out with him.
But according to the ancient visionaries, the disobedient angels were not cast down to earth after fierce combat in the celestial sphere. They willingly and voluntarily chose to abandon the height of heaven for the earth below. That story of how the divine sons of God exiled themselves from their celestial abode and lusted after corruptible human flesh is the subject of a remarkable account purportedly inscribed by the seventh descendant of Adam, the biblical patriarch Enoch. The traditional Bible says little about Enoch, except that he walked with God and he was not, for God took him. Genesis 5:24. But first Enoch, his first-person account, tells us that the heavens were opened to him, whereupon he made a succession of travels to the divine throne and was shown incredible mysteries. Enoch continues his account.
They, along with their chieftains, took women for themselves. They chose whomever they desired. They penetrated and defiled them. They taught them witchcraft, magic spells, and how to cut roots and herbs for use in their conjurations.
The account proceeds, describing a race of giants.
The women became pregnant by the watchers and gave birth to the giants, who grew to be up to 3,000 cubits tall. They were born according to the laws of nature and grew up at a constant rate. Moreover, they consumed the produce of the labor of men. None were able to provide for their rapacious appetites. Therefore the giants, the Nephilim, conspired to kill the men and eat them. They performed sinful acts against all the birds, against the animals of the earth, against the reptiles who crawl on the earth and in the sea and the sky, against the fish of the sea. They ate their flesh and drank their blood. The earth itself condemned these evildoers for everything they had done.
So the visionary authors, perhaps experiencing some kind of metaphysical trance, literally imagined the race of men being eaten alive by these giants. Enoch goes on with his narration.
They all started disclosing magical secrets to their wives, as a result of which many people were struck dead. Their cries ascended to heaven. At that time the righteous angels, Michael, Sariel, Raphael, and Gabriel, looked down from the holy places of the heavens. They saw that much blood had been spilled on the earth, and that the earth was full of evil and violence, which people had perpetrated. The four angels said to each other, "The cries and moans for the annihilation of the sons of earth has ascended to the gates of heaven." The Eternal replied to Gabriel, "You must return to those illegitimate children of harlotry. You must annihilate the offspring of the Watchers from among humankind. Declare war on them. Their real desire is for lifespans of 500 years, but they are destined not to live much longer." The Eternal replied to Michael, "You must return and tell Shemi-Hazar and all his friends, those who cohabited with women and were made unclean by them, that their offspring will die. Go and bind them in chains in the earth's great valleys until their judgment day, for soon I will open the windows of heaven."
This fantastic account, while excluded from the canonical Bible, shouldn't be taken lightly, since it was widely believed and accepted among the ancient Israelites. There's even a direct reference to it in the New Testament epistle of Jude.
"And the angels who did not keep their proper domain, but left their own abode, he has reserved in everlasting chains under darkness, for the judgment of the great day." Now Enoch, the seventh from Adam, prophesied about these men also, saying, "Behold, the Lord comes with 10,000s of his saints, to execute judgment on all, to convict all who are ungodly among them of all their ungodly deeds which they have committed in an ungodly way, and of all the harsh things which ungodly sinners have spoken against him."
And so the floodwaters were sent, sweeping them all away, while only Noah and his family were saved. Nonetheless, the ultimate prognosis for humankind is not gloomy, but glorious.
All of humanity will become righteous. They will all worship me. All the nations will fall down before me and bless me. All of the world will become clean of defilement and pollution. Never again will I let loose my anger or punish the world's inhabitants.
But curiously enough, we find another biblical reference to giants, when 10 of the 12 spies sent by Joshua to infiltrate the promised land report that they had seen a tribe of Nephilim called the Enochites.
And there we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Anak, who come from the Nephilim, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight.
But the obvious problem is that if the Nephilim had been swept away in the great flood, how could they still be around in the days of Joshua? We also have the narration attributed to Moses himself.
The Emim had dwelt there in times past, a people as great and numerous and tall as the Enochian. They were also regarded as giants, like the Enochian, but the Moabites called them Emim.
Then it says that both the Anakim and Emim are also counted as Rephaim. Now, who exactly were the Rephaim? They were likely the descendants of a giant named Rapha, who's mentioned 6 times in the Bible. Though some translations understand this as giants, Rapha is probably a proper name. Elsewhere, we're told that King Og of Bashan was one of the last of the Rephaim, and that there remained Rephaim in the land, namely the Anakim and the descendants of Rapha. Moses is said to relate the following.
For only Og, the king of Bashan, was left of the remnant of the Rephaim. Behold, his bed was a bed of iron. Is it not in Rabbah of the Ammonites? 9 cubits was its length, and 4 cubits its breadth, according to the common cubit.
Since a cubit was about 18 inches, Og's bed was about 13 feet 6 inches long, suggesting that he was indeed a giant. What about Goliath, whose height was put at 6 cubits and a span, making him 9 feet 9 inches tall? Some commentators have tried to rationalize, suggesting that spirit beings bred with human women for a second time after the flood, or that the genes of the Nephilim were passed along through Noah's daughters-in-law, since the wives of Noah's sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth, had not descended from Noah. They perhaps carried the genes of the Nephilim. But on a rational level, such explanations seem, at the very least, a stretch. What we still have to ask is where the stories came from, and how an entire folklore derived, lasting for many centuries, and finding its way into the book of Enoch and other literature of the Second Temple period. Who were the Enochians who wrote it all down? And how prominent was Enochic Judaism that its books were even copied by the Dead Sea sect? Whoever the Enochians were, they were not the ruling priestly class who controlled the Jewish temple in Jerusalem. They were not the Sadducees, who controlled the sacrificial system. They were a class of outsiders whose mystical visions inspired reams of material that was systematically excluded from the biblical canon. Their story deserves a great deal of investigation. There's much more to come.